You know what happened the other day? And
What?
I'm sick of talking about it. Honestly, I feel like I've told everybody I know. So this is just going to be a brief one. But I went to Johnny's.
Uh-huh.
Actually, multiple things that you might be interested happened. But I went to Johnny's to watch a Monday night game. I'm trying to do that this year. And man, there's this just lady that was there by herself, and she's in town visiting her daughter who's on fall break or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And she just talked to me the entire time, and I
Dang.
didn't really get to enjoy the game. And it was like I didn't know it was happening until it was too late. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, I was like that kind of just ruined everything. Even though it was a fine interaction, it just wasn't what I was there for,
Yeah, you're
right?
not there to talk to people.
But she kept trying to talk me into getting a pontoon boat and building a sauna on it, and then like taking it out to the lake in the wintertime. And like, it's a thing, charging people to do like the sauna into like a cold plunge. I don't know. And I was
What a
like, this is
weird.
yeah, it was bizarre. She did it once in Norway, and now I think she probably talks to everyone about it. It's fine.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are in a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Going pretty well, man.
Good.
Got to tell you, it's been a pretty fun football week. Feel like things are getting more interesting, and
They are getting
I'm
pretty
here for
interesting.
it.
Two massive trades this week. That was
Thank
pretty
God.
crazy. I mean, one
Yeah.
was foretold weeks ago.
I
Uh
crystal balls, man.
with the Devontae Adams stuff, but Amari Cooper to the Bills. That's pretty wild. This is something we're probably gonna touch on a little later.
Oh,
Because this week we are covering four teams that we want to talk about and kind of just go over their fantasy production and see if it's going to continue. And really just our thoughts about a few teams, and maybe the Bills will be one of them. Who knows? But first, as always, we are going to go with the rookie roundup, and I'm changing it up a bit this week. I'm not going to list the clear backups anymore because we're too far in the season. Pretty much, if
yeah.
you don't hear their name, see you next year until you make a pop, until somebody gets hurt. But they're gone. They're done. I'm done talking about them. If you move out of the clear backups or the injuries
Gotta
into,
earn your way. Oh,
you got to
sorry.
earn it. I'm not mentioning you anymore. So sayonara. So we're going straight to promising usage, and we're going to start with the running backs like we usually do. And Tyrone Tracy, back-to-back sick weeks with Devin Singletary gone. 23 points. Last week I complained that he didn't do it through the air at all. This week, 6 catches for 57 yards. So that's pretty huge for him. If he keeps up this production, I would have to check the Singletary deal, but maybe he'll start. Seems like these later, like next year, but these late round rookie running backs tend to get eaten up fairly quickly. But maybe he'll be able to last. Jalen Wright was on a bye, but he's still in this category, especially with the A-Chan injury. We'll see if he can come back after the bye. Kind of good timing if you're gonna get a concussion to do it on your bye week, I suppose. But shout out to him. Hopefully he's doing all right. Bucky Irving, starting for an injured Rashad White, 19 points, 14 attempts, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Was pretty much outshined by Sean Tucker, which kind of came out of nowhere. But still, 19 points on the day is pretty good. Ray Davis also stepping in for an injured James Cook. He had 97 yards on 20 attempts and 3 catches for 55 yards, which is really good to see. Another rookie running back replacing a starter who was hurt. Well, semi-starter, I guess backup. Keami Vidal, 13 points this week, mostly just because he caught a 40-yard touchdown, or maybe not 40-yard touchdown, but he caught a touchdown, had 40 yards receiving. So that was cool to see. Gus Edwards was put on IR, so we will see if Vidal can kind of earn that secondary role there. And then Braylon Allen only gets 1 point this week, and his snap percentage dropped all the way down to 19%, which seemed weird. It also coincided with a huge Brees Hall game. So I don't know that maybe that's how we need to do it and stop mixing these guys up so much. But it's sad to see because Braylon Allen in his limited action did look good. So we'll see if that was just like a one-time thing or how that's going to be going forward. Moving on to some wide receivers here. More guys stepping up when people are injured. Bud Means 16 points for the New Orleans Saints for an injured Chris Olave. 8 targets even. Had a touchdown, 45 yards, 5 catches. Keon Coleman, 12 points. Did all right. I think I forgot to write down his stats actually, so we're gonna move on from him. But I think he had 12. Can you double check me on the Keon Coleman stuff? I messed that one up.
Yeah,
Um,
you're good. I got him right here
okay,
if you want him.
perfect. Yeah, hit me with
Yeah.
it.
4 targets, 3 catches, 26 yards, no
Okay.
touchdowns.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I left his from last week apparently. Moving on to Xavier Legette, he came back from getting hurt last week. 11 points, 4 targets, 3 catches, 23 yards, but a touchdown. So good to see that. Lad McConkey got hurt early in the Chargers game, but then he came back in. 4 catches for 43 yards, so nothing amazing. But we'll see if how that goes on moving forward. And then I moved Romo Dunze back down into the promising usage. He just when Allen is on the field, he's not getting the workload that he was getting whenever it was just him and DJ Moore. 6 points this week. He did have 80% of the snaps, but he only had 2 targets. Now it was 2 catches for 40 yards. But I think we're just gonna have to wait a little while to see Odunze kind of become the guy in Chicago. Xavier Worthy was on a bye. And then we had Theo Johnson, 89% snap share, 6 points, 3 catches, 30 yards. So nothing crazy, but it's good to see him on the field all the time. And then Jatavion Sanders moves up from clear backups, 9 points this week, 73% snap share, 7 targets, which was the big number to me, and then 5 receptions for 49 yards. So pretty decent day for him, and it's good to see him getting on the field. Now, we're moving on to possible studs, but the problem is the possible studs kind of didn't do very much this week. We had Malik Neighbors, who's still out with a concussion, and then we had Marvin Harrison Jr. get 2 targets and go out with a concussion very early in the Cardinals game. So those two guys not really on the field. Well, one not at all, and then the other one not really. And then Brian Thomas Jr., after playing awesome for a few weeks in a row, only got 6 points this week, 6 targets, 3 catches for 27 yards. The Jags just looked horrible in London, so maybe they can bounce back next week. But yeah, our three possible stud wide receivers, not so great this week, but Brock Bowers did have 16 points, 10 targets, 9 catches for 71 yards. He's definitely getting a bump from Devontae Adams being gone. And now Devontae Adams is gone for good. So I expect Brock Bowers to be in the top 5 of fantasy tight ends by the end of the year. He's just been super consistent and seems like there's not a lot else on that offense they're going to be able to target. We did have some more fun at the QB position this week. A lot of good playing rookie quarterbacks and a couple new faces. So we'll get into Jaden Daniels, who continues to look awesome. 269 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Ravens. Now, it didn't seem like they were really ever really in that game, but it was still good to see that like he wasn't the reason that they lost that game. Like he played well. And the Commanders just aren't quite on the level of the Ravens yet. So it's good to see him not kind of fold under pressure there. Caleb Williams had his best game as a rookie. 226 yards, 4 touchdowns, only 6 incompletions this week. Was carving up the Jaguars secondary in London, and that's exactly what you wanted to see from him. He's setting Bears rookie QB records already, which is both awesome and sad for the Bears. Um, Bo Nix, 23 points this week. He continues to look pretty good. 2 touchdowns, 6 carries for 61 yards. Actually led all rookie quarterbacks in rushing this week. which is pretty wild to think about. Got a little juice to him. We'll see how he does. They're playing a banged up New Orleans team, so he might look good again here on Thursday night. We'll know, you'll know before this even comes out. So
Hey.
you guys tell me how Bo Nix did. Drake May made his rookie debut. Well, not debut, but rookie starting debut. 20 points. He had three touchdowns, did have two interceptions, but it's still
Mm.
promising to see him kind of move that offense a little bit. Wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but not horrible either. So that's good to see. And then Spencer Rattler came in and played for an injured Derek Carr. Not amazing. 11 points, two interceptions, one touchdown, but he did have 243 yards, and that was with no Chris Olave. So there's definitely at least a little juice there. Chris Olave went out really early in the game, also with concussions. Feels like there's a lot of concussions this year, or
Yeah,
at least,
especially this week.
yeah, this week has been bad. But yeah, there you have it. That is your rookie roundup for this week. Ran through it a little quicker. Not a ton of rookie action, except really in the RB room, it seemed like. But yeah, it's exciting, and we're gonna see all of those quarterbacks gonna keep going. All five of them are gonna keep going for the foreseeable future right now until Derek Carr gets back. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how all those guys shake out.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird. This Bud means things. The Bud means things. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm so intrigued because like, Shahid's hurt now.
Yeah.
Olave's got, he's ruled out, not gonna be back in time. Quick turnaround. Man, it's just gonna be Alvin Kamara all the way, I guess. But I don't know. One thing I have the Monday night game. As I mentioned to you, I caught some of it, not all of it.
Hmm.
Is was the Braylon Allen thing? Like he had a touchdown that was called back on a holding penalty that was kind of a
Gotcha.
bummer. Could have given him a good fantasy relevant week, but the usage was definitely going Hall's way. I don't know if that's like a bit of a Robert Saul thing or what. So that's going to be something to keep
Oh.
an eye on, just like a unknown factor.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, uh, I actually didn't did not watch very much football at all this weekend. I was out in the woods. It was a little hard to make that happen. I listened to the Packers game while I was driving out there, but that's all I could get done. So I'm intrigued to go back and watch some of this. I'm kind of basing a lot of this stuff off of more stats than I am actually seeing stuff this week. But that is interesting. I didn't even think about the Jeff Ulbrich of it all, and
Mm.
seeing if maybe he doesn't have Braylon Allen doesn't have the same standing. Apparently, we'll see how that goes going forward.
He still looks good. It was hilarious. That was one of those like Brees Hall had a 40-yard carry. It got tackled at the 3, and then like Braylon Allen scored and then called back, and then there was like ended up being a missed field goal. They missed multiple
Oh my
field goals,
God.
but
Of
yeah, I
course.
just say, what, I'm going to get into it later. I'm going to talk about this
Okay.
game again, yet again.
Okay.
So,
Weird.
um, if you're ready, I can introduce the next segment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, all right, guys, I'm calling it Reflections and Projections. So basically, we're through week 6. And we know everything we need to know about the NFL. So let us write in the Super Bowl champion so we can get back into rookie season and start for the draft next year. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's a classic joke, but at this stage, we've got two undefeated teams, which is kind of a low number this early. Usually you have a couple holding on, but
Hmm.
both of them are coming off of a bye week, the Vikings and the Chiefs. So they lose a little bit of steam. So I'm just going to talk about a couple other successful teams in the same conversation because why not? The Texans join them as being the 3-5 win teams on the season.
Mm.
And then if you want to make it a full quartet, you can throw in Detroit, adding to the list of teams that have one or fewer losses. So
Hmm.
pretty solid. I'm ready to do it. AFC Championship game, Houston, Kansas City.
Oh,
NFC
okay.
Champion game, Vikings, Lions. And the season ends now. All right. Now we can talk about rookies for next year. No, as this is what I want to do. But instead, let's just check on a couple of teams, man. Each of us have
Yeah.
selected four teams to kind of just look at, see if we think, how they're doing so far this year is going to last, and if they're going to take a turn for the worst or get it in line. We're going to talk about, anything from their upcoming schedule to the fantasy production we've seen out of them. And I don't know. We're just gonna check in with a couple of teams. How does that
All
sound?
right.
Did I miss anything?
No, it sounds awesome. You want to hit us with your first team?
Oh, no, I should have seen this coming. Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk about the Patriots.
Okay.
And it's nothing deep, it's nothing crazy, but what I saw last weekend blew my mind.
Hmm.
Okay, the wide receiver 8, wide receiver 24, the tight end 7, the quarterback 10, and this is
Wow.
Drake May's first full-time game.
It's pretty wild.
A motherfucker named Keishawn Butte is somehow fantasy relevant. This
That
is
is
just
pretty
getting wild.
bananas.
Yeah. So, what's going to happen when a healthy Ramondre Stevenson is coming out with them?
Hmm.
This dude, he got benched straight into the RB4 week, and then he misses time. And I don't know. I don't know what to think about the Patriots. I can't wrap my head around it. But if you look at Baker Mayfield and Drake May's week 6 stats while squinting, it's the same thing. You can't tell me you're not excited. I know
Hmm.
you're like, oh no, that can't be true. Did Drake May throw 2 picks? Baker threw three. Yeah. 3 touchdowns for May, 4 for Baker. A dot in the garbage, 5.8. But these guys still had really good statistical weeks. Obviously, Tampa Bay had more on the ground game. You mentioned
Hmm.
it with Tucker. You mentioned it with the only nightcrawler in the house, Mr. Irving. So if they can get a ground game to back this up, I think it could be incredible. I know people are saying these words. They're calling them trash, garbage, and forgotten. And I dare you to follow my dreams. The Patriots are 1-5. I personally believe that they can get to 7 wins this season.
Wow.
And I do
Wow.
believe Drake May, 3 touchdowns on a Patriots team, that is good for any season post Tom Brady. I think something crazy is going on up there, and it's going to be fun to be a part of. So, a reflection of one week projecting a great season. So, that's where I'm at with the Patriots.
Wow. That's some confidence. I'm excited now to go watch Drake May and see how he looked. I mean, I saw the 3 touchdowns, but I saw the 2 picks, so I didn't know like how up and down it was. And then they did still lose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They're
yeah.
playing Houston. It was, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see how much of that was maybe garbage time. I don't know. But I could see it. I mean, if they can't, like you're saying, if Stevenson comes back and they can run the ball and give Drake May a more consistent running game, and then he obviously can at least move the ball through the air. He's got the arm. And then he didn't even really use much of his rushing ability. I mean, he had almost 40 yards. But it'll be interesting to see if they work that in because that was a big factor for him coming out of college. I mean, people wanted to call him the next Josh Allen. Um, so we'll see. I'm excited to watch. I mean, they definitely are infinitely more exciting with Drake May on the field than they were with Mr. Brisket.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, but,
All right. I am gonna get into an NFC North team. And maybe a lot of you are thinking, oh God, here comes Christian. He's going to talk about the Packers. Blah, 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 blah. No, actually, I'm going to talk about the Bears. I'm going to throw the Bears some flowers here. They're sitting at 4-2. Pretty good record with a rookie quarterback. There's 12th in points for, which is pretty
hmm.
great, and 11th in passing yards. Now they're 25th in rushing yards. So there's not a lot of balance in terms of yardage there. But DeAndre Swift is the RB10 in PPR right now, which is pretty astounding considering how bad he started. A lot of it does seem to be matchup based, but he's got some pretty good matchups coming up. I do think his schedule does get a little tougher in terms of running back matchups the further we get down the season. So he might be a guy you want to watch on later on your playoff runs. But right now, I mean, he's pretty much a locked in starter. Obviously, I think they're rolling into their bye week this week, so you can't start him this week. But man, he's been a revelation. But as good as Caleb Williams has been, the QB 11 on the year, and like I said, 11th in passing yards, these wide receivers that were all the rage in the offseason talking about how great they were, haven't been like that incredible. It's just been kind of inconsistent. DJ Moore's sitting at the wide receiver 21 right now. Keenan Allen is the wide receiver 68. He did miss 2 weeks, obviously, but even some of his games back, it wasn't that incredible. And then Rome Odunze is the wide receiver 58. So you're almost like, well, who is getting all of the work here in the Bears passing game? And weirdly, it's Cole Kmet who's sitting at the tight
Yeah.
end 3 right now, a guy that we were kind of out on. I know you mentioned it last week, giving this guy the benefit of the doubt because he's been productive, and we definitely should have. Um, in terms of the Bears and their success going forward, um, I do. I don't want to be that guy, but I do want to point out that their wins have come against the Jags, the Panthers, the Rams, and the Titans. So it's not like a list of powerhouses. And then looking up on their upcoming schedule, they've got the Commanders, they've got the Patriots, who you just said we're gonna get to 7 wins, so that's a spicy one now. They got
Maybe
the
not.
Vikings twice, the Packers twice, the Lions twice, and the 49ers, and the Seahawks. So their schedule definitely gets a lot rougher going forward, and they have not been overly consistent, even with the upside that they have shown off. I do think they end up with a winning record, but they're going to be at least splitting some of these games. And I don't know how exactly that's going to go. I think they'll be kind of in the playoff hunt towards the end of the year, which is saying something with a rookie quarterback and a coach who was on the hot seat coming into the year. But I mean, and if they can heat up, and if like Caleb Williams stays playing the way he is now, or at least the way he did in London, they could be spicy, and maybe they could make a run here. But that schedule coming up, it gets real tight for them.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about the Pats game, okay? I'm just putting it out there. But I mean, just playing in that division, that's going to be tight the way everything's
hmm
going. It's going to be hard for any team up there to be successful. But I mean, he's poised, dude.
Yeah.
Caleb is doing it. So
Oh, and he also has the defense helping him out. Like whenever they do get in a bad spot, the defense is like top 10 in yards and points. And that is kind of a Chicago Bears staple. And if they can pair a good passer with that, man, it could get really spicy.
yeah, it absolutely could. And I think that the fact that they're kind of doing it with star players in reserve just means like we have no idea what the maximum potential for this team is. And I don't know, man. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with that. I didn't think I was going to be cool with it. I had some issues with the coaches, and I thought that was kind of crazy. They made it out of those past couple seasons with their jobs, and looks like they're gonna pull that rabbit out of the hat. And Caleb's the man, so let's roll. Good Lord. But well, I'm gonna do what I always do. If that's okay
Okay,
with you.
let's do it.
I'm gonna talk about the Arizona Cardinals.
All right.
This is what I have to do. This is what I do. So join me as we take a trip to Arizona. We join the Arizona football team in their standard pregame ritual. Picture this: the fog is thick, the dice are rolled. The player with the highest roll gets to be a top 10 fantasy player for the week.
Hmm.
Very exciting. Marvin Harrison rolls a 9. Ooh, that's a pretty good roll. James Conner walks up and rolls an 11. Top
Hmm.
that, I say. Kyler rolls an 8. Whatever. Trey McBride grabs the dice, slams it down, sixes up. It's on, baby. This is ridiculous. I'm over it with the Cardinals, okay? this team is so stacked and
Yeah.
so they should be so amazing,
Yeah.
but it's just not consistent. All
Hmm.
right, you got week one, James Conner, RB8. Cool. Good start to the year. We'll do it. Week two, okay. Kyler's a top dog. Number one. Marvin Harrison, there he is. Number one. Trey McBride, fourth on the week. James Conner, seventh on the week. They did it. They figured it out against the Rams. This is so exciting. What's going to happen? What's going to happen next week? Week three, they meet the Lions. They only put up 20 points. No players inside the top 15. Week
Hmm.
four, 14 points against the Commanders. Kidding me? James Conner, he got RB 15. No one else really doing much. We're getting a little discouraged. We're getting a little sad. So then we go up against the Niners in week five. And this was a big one because they got a gritty win, a 1 point victory over the Niners.
Hmm.
Kyler, QB5, spread the ball out, utilized his players, didn't really produce any great fantasy weeks for any of the skill position guys. But
Hmm.
that's all right, you know. That's good to see the balance, see everyone being involved. Then we get to week six. Come on. They got packed up by Green Bay. It was sad to watch. The only
Hmm.
player that did anything worth anything, 8 for 8, Trey McBride, tight end four. So he's a tight end four for the season. Kyler's a QB9. No one else is in the top 12. I don't even know what Marvin Harrison is doing. He got a concussion. He's out. 27th on the year. James Conner at 14th on some pop games. It's getting a little bit weird.
Hmm.
These players are getting too hot too fast. It's too inconsistent for the fantasy production, and it's echoed by the team's success. They're 2-4. I hate to say it. I'm going negative on this one. Okay.
Hmm.
I had high hopes for this team, but the pop games, they're leading us to fantasy frustration. You can't trust anything outside of the tight end room. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, I don't get it. What are we doing? I just don't think that as a team, they're going to be able to rebound as far as NFL wins. And I
Hmm.
think in the fantasy world, they're going to play with our hearts and they're going to cost us games. That's it.
I think that's fair. Inconsistency really has been their thing. I do want like the Packers game specifically, they had like an absurd amount of penalties. It was like 13. Not even like I don't necessarily think they were cheap penalties or anything like that, but it was just all and they were like the least penalized team going into the into the week as well. So like that just speaks to their inconsistency, I guess. But that like just derailed everything they wanted to do, and then they had like three fumbles as well, which is like it's so it wasn't that they weren't even moving the ball, it's just that they didn't score much because they kept giving it to us whenever they got onto our side of the field. So it's just kind of a weird game. They were slipping and sliding around in Lambeau too. It was kind of rainy. But that doesn't excuse the rest of their, it doesn't excuse
Yeah,
them getting
it's a
their doors
trend.
blown off by the Commanders or anything like that, or the Lions as well. I mean, the Lions are just a great football team.
Sure.
So it's going to be maddeningly inconsistent for sure, and they're probably gonna mess you up there in a big spot. Even Trey McBride being the tight end four, I mean, he looks good and he's getting peppered with targets, but especially when Harrison's not on the field. But we want Harrison on the field, so it's kind of this weird dynamic. But I do think they're gonna be good enough to get you some wins as well. It's just gonna be, can you eat it when one of them has 5 points or whatever. Um, so yeah, I like the Cardinals in terms of like fun spiciness, but yeah, they're probably gonna be not great in terms of win total.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know
a
who else isn't going to be great in terms of win total? Because they started out 1-5, and they're
oof.
28th in points for, and 23rd in passing yards, and 22nd in rushing yards. So just bad all around. It's the
Jesus.
Carolina Panthers. They benched Bryce Young a few weeks ago. They come out and win their first game after that with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton being the QB 25 on the year after not playing the first two games. He was He's fine. He's been okay. They're just not a very good football team. But there is one player who deserves to be talked about, and that is Chuba Hubbard. He is the RB5 in PPR leagues right now. 16 points per game, and he's third on the team in targets. That's behind Deontay Johnson, and I forget who else. But it has been impressive to watch Chuba. He looks a lot better than he did last year, and he's been kind of the focal point of their offense. And he's really like any zero RB drafters or somebody like me who was trying to buy RBs on the cheap and got him. It's been a godsend, to be honest. But Jonathan Brooks is heating up and just got activated from the pup list. So like, how much longer is that going to last? You think they wouldn't want to rush the kid off an ACL injury, especially when Chuba is playing as well as he is. But at the same time, you're a fan base that has a team that's 1-5, that had the first overall pick 2 years in a row now.
Soon to be
So
three.
soon to be three, likely. And so you want to throw some spice out there. So you may end up seeing more of Jonathan Brooks quickly, but I hope not, because I mean, Chuba has earned it. And then Deontay Johnson was a guy that I was super in on coming into the year. I thought he was going to get peppered with targets, and he does. He is the wide receiver 20. It's just there's, again, kind of like the Cardinals, they're really inconsistent. So he has these like boom games so far. Really nothing with Bryce Young, and then a couple with Andy Dalton. So he's definitely more consistent with Andy Dalton on the field, but it's still not like amazingly consistent. And then everything else on this roster is just tough to look at. You got Xavier Legette as the wide receiver 62, Adam Thielen as the wide receiver 87, and Jatavion Sanders is their leader in the tight end room, and he's the tight end 35. So it's
Ugh.
just not a lot of action going on outside of Chuba and then occasionally Deontay Johnson. And then you look at their schedule coming up. You got the Commanders, the Broncos who have been pretty decent. The Giants are coming up, and hopefully they'll have Malik Neighbors in London. Then they play the Chiefs and the Bucks and the Eagles and the Cowboys who could use a win, and then the Bucks again, and the Falcons. So it doesn't seem likely that they're gonna win more than what, 4 games,
Ugh.
which is tough.
Yeah,
Tough
no,
to hear.
that'd be impressive at this rate.
So yeah, I mean, you might, yeah, I don't know, you might give them a toss-up chance against the Saints. But
Ish.
other than that, and maybe the Cardinals, they play the Cardinals in December. So maybe that's two, and they get to 3 wins. But it's looking like another rough season if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. But maybe this running back room can still help you out in fantasy.
Hmm. Yeah, well, we'll see, man. It could get diluted. It could be completely diluted. It could just get washed out, and it could just get ugly, man.
Mhm.
Chuba, just let him be, you know.
Yeah, just let him do his thing.
Just let him be. Just let him be. It'll be all right. But no, we all want to see what Brooks is doing. I got to give yeah Sanders a little credit. He's doing a little better than I would have expected for him. So
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see. The funny thing about the Panthers is they've always had like I mean, well, I say always, but between Deontay and Chuba, we're getting little sprinkles of some fantasy worthwhileness, which is not always the case for a bottom of the league team. So
Mhm.
appreciate that. But yeah, we don't know. We don't know what's happening with the Brooks thing. It could be 1A, 1B. It could be, I don't know. He was amazing in college, and I know we were excited to see what he could do on the NFL field. So
Absolutely.
let it roll. Okay. I'm getting into my next team here. It is the Bills. The Bills. Am I a
Hey,
broken record? Do I always talk about the same teams? Feels like the Bills.
nah.
I'm not talking about Cincinnati tonight, so I don't know. Maybe I've got a type. Maybe I don't. But I've brought up the Monday night game. It was a gross game for
Mhm.
kickers. So many
Mhm.
missed points. It was pretty sweet on the ground though. It was like it was incredible on the ground. It was next level. It was beautiful. Um and nonetheless, both those teams walked away from that game saying, this isn't gonna work. We need more. We need something. So we got some
Yep.
hired guns. You know, Jets, great. The squeaky wheel got the grease. So congratulations, Mr. Adams. You're going to New York. But for the Bills, I mean, Amari Cooper, let's
Yeah.
do this. I'm into
Mhm.
it. There's no surprise for me on this one. They have no receivers inside the top 50 in yardage, and per game they are uncharacteristically outside the top 25 in passing yards.
Wow.
It's just crazy. A change had to be made. Stephon is gone, and so it's on with Amari. And I'm pretty pumped about him. If you look at
Yeah.
his stats this season, his production, it doesn't, it's kind of funny. It's the same, like the exact same as Khalil Shakir's numbers, except for Amari Cooper has like 2.5 times the targets, like 21 to 53, but the
Oh
production
wow.
line is the same. It's pretty sad.
Woof.
But we know that he's had over 200 fantasy points every year, save one injury prone year way back in the day. Um, and he's had top 10, top 5 weeks peppered throughout. It's been
Mhm.
extremely reliable. And I know people are like, hey, the dude's 30, but I mean, so is Stephon Diggs. So let's
Mhm.
not get too upset about it. Um, but yeah, I think that one thing to say about this team that's kind of mind blowing, besides the fact that they're 4-2, is Josh Allen is still managing to be the QB5.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive when you don't have a wide receiver in the top 50 of yardage and you have running backs like James Cook and obviously Ray Davis just getting nasty with it. So hats off to you, Josh Allen. Obviously, arrow up for him. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I think that a couple of things are going to happen. Aside from like the most wildly tormenting missed game of all time with James Cook, that was insane on Monday. I saw
Yeah.
multiple league scrambles trying to figure that one out when guys got the news way too late. But
Yeah, that was wild.
I think that there's a danger of a Ray Davis becoming a 1B.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be something. So, there's a lot that could be shooken up with the Bills right now. You get an alpha wide receiver, calling him an alpha, and
Mhm.
then you have the potential for a 1A, 1B backfield. So, it's completely unpredictable. I think that the Bills are going to be doing pretty good here in a little while. First off, yeah, they're 4-2, and
Mhm.
it's hard to believe that. But their games coming up are pretty soft. They've got, obviously the AFC East, so there's the Pats and the Dolphins, see what they can do. But they also have the rest of the AFC South, so they have some pretty soft matchups coming their way.
Yeah.
Um, the only games they've lost were the Ravens, which they pretty much pantsed them, and then
Mhm.
you've got the Texans. Um, so I think that they have a chance to probably hit the 11 or 12 win mark. They've taken down the Jets, the Cardinals. They dog walked the Jags. You know what I
Hey.
mean? So, and yeah, then they obviously beat Miami in the game where Tua did not finish. So it's it's been pretty good. If you're only going to lose 2 games, I think the Texans and the Ravens are you can keep your chin up after losses like that. But
Mhm.
I do think Amari Cooper kind of takes everything the next level. We're ready to go. I think it's huge for Keon Coleman. They're not going to be expecting him to be the alpha. Maybe he can figure out how to maximize some of those, jump ball skills that he
Mhm.
showed in college and some of that wild on the field speed that he showed at the combine to really be a consistent producer
Mhm.
without getting that number one coverage. And then Kincaid, I mean, kind of a letdown so far this year, but I think this could open things up for him too. They really just needed a veteran on this team,
Mhm.
and they finally got it. So I'm in, man. I think that they could get back to that the Bills of old, recent old, like
Hmm.
last couple of years Bills, where they just kind of own the regular season and then just look really sad when they
Hmm.
lose in the playoffs. But that's
Yeah.
okay. Someone's got to lose. It might as well be the Bills.
I guess so. Yeah, the addition of Amari Cooper makes a lot of sense. I mean, I would rag on them about like, oh, well, maybe you should have just kept Stephon Diggs. But that relationship was dead. Like you sometimes you just can't. And Stephon Diggs seemed like you wanted out of there.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that wasn't
so
gonna work.
yeah, so like, but it was silly that they kind of preached all off season that kind of that we're not gonna have a wide receiver one type like mentality, and then like let's go trade for Amari Cooper, but it does make a lot of sense. I mean he's such a good route runner. He catches everything, which is what Josh Allen needs. Somebody that's consistent, that when he's making these plays, he can look for and hit deep, and that is Cooper. So I am
Mhm.
with you. I think the Bills are gonna be good. Obviously, they're going to continue to be good. They may take them a few weeks to get going with Cooper, just depending on how that works.
Yeah,
But it wouldn't shock me if he does still end up putting. I mean, he's got a slow start, so it might be tough, but it wouldn't be
well, they go
crazy.
Texans,
Mm,
Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts.
gotcha.
So I'm feeling like they can do something. And he's
Mm,
$800,000. That's it. And a third
wow,
round pick.
that's
So
crazy.
I mean that pretty much what the Diggs thing, but I'm like this is why I'm so surprised to see him at the QB5 because he's out there with questionable weapons. You got
Hmm.
Mahomes, closer to QB 18 or whatever,
Uh-huh.
without the weapons. So I don't know, man. It makes me feel like someone's about to pop off up there.
I could see it. I could absolutely see it. And I like the 1B idea with Ray Davis. Although James Cook has looked really good and
Mm,
has been like a lot of their offense lately. But let's kick it from a 4-2 team to another 4-2 team. The one that did dock walk these said Bills a few weeks ago. It's the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens. They are fourth in points for right now, just scoring almost at will. Eighth in passing yard and first in rushing yards, also first in total yards. And they're just, I mean, their fantasy production has been insane. Lamar Jackson's the QB1, Derrick Henry's the RB2 in PPR leagues, the RB1 in standard leagues. Derrick Henry is currently leading the league in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns at over 30 years old on a brand new team. So that worked. Good job, Ravens, signing Derrick Henry in the offseason. Isaiah Likely's the tight end 5, and Mark Andrews quietly is the tight end 15 after being almost non-existent for a few weeks. He kind of popped back up last week with 2 touchdowns. So that was fun to see. And then you got Zay Flowers, man, wide receiver 18 in PPR leagues. He's got 22 more targets than Rashad Bateman. He's averaging 8 targets a game. Rashad Bateman being the wide receiver 46. So that resurgence did not happen like some people thought it would. But Zay Flowers is a guy, man. I mean, his ceiling is what it is, but he has proven that he's an NFL caliber receiver, that he can be the number one in this offense. He does seem to find the holes that Lamar is looking for him. And I think he can keep heating up and stay in the teens. I don't think he's going anywhere. And I don't think the Ravens offense is going anywhere. They do start to tighten up here a little bit on schedule, but the way they have been just playing people lately, I don't know that it's going to matter much. They do have the Bucks next week. That seems like a weird game. That seems like one they could very much end up losing just with how the Buccaneers play. But then
yeah.
you get the Browns twice, so there's 2 wins. You get the Broncos. No way Bo Nix is beating them in my opinion. You do get the Bengals again, who did give them a run for their money, at least offensively. Their defense got wasted in that game. The Bengals and kind of the Ravens too. And then you get the Steelers twice, which those games are always tight. And then you get the Texans as well, and then a few interesting matchups like the Eagles and the Chargers and the Giants. But I think these guys I know you were talking about the AFC Championship game earlier,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I could ticket them for this game as well as if they keep playing the way they're playing and just it seems like they're very in control when they're on offense, which is exactly what you want to see from them. And I don't see anybody stopping Derrick Henry. I don't see anybody really stopping Lamar, or Zay for that matter. So I don't know, man. I think the Ravens are going to be really, really awesome going down the stretch here. And I think those guys, those three guys, you can count on fairly consistently. And then you might be playing a little Russian roulette with the tight ends on a weekly basis. But I do think we could see Mark Andrews start to heat up here a little bit.
Well, I'd certainly like to see that. I think everyone at this point would like to see Mark Andrews heating up a little bit. Good Lord. But yeah, the Derrick Henry of it all, like, of course they look in control of games. I mean, when you can go from having, one of the best running backs of the past 10 years, with the best, rushing quarterback of the past 10 years, it's nasty. Yeah,
Mhm.
and you have things like receivers completely ghosting games with no production because it's just not necessary at that point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like Lamar every year, right? That they're like,
Mhm.
hey man, you got to figure out a pass to these guys. And then he gives it a shot mid-season. It usually goes pretty well. And then ultimately, he has to be Superman and take things into his own hands. So I assume that's going to be the same kind of storyline this year, and I'm here for it because it's pretty awesome to watch. I don't know, never really cheered for the Ravens, but I you gotta love Derrick Henry just being the NFL zombie that he is, man. Like he's never gonna die,
Yeah.
and it's really cool. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully you can get some. I don't know, deep playoff runs. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know how to say that. Ravens. Good Lord. I've had enough of it. But no, good to see what this team can do when it's healthy. So they've struggled the past couple of years and they're not struggling right now.
Not at all.
But I don't know, health. Oh, this is a bad transition. Healthy, struggling. I don't know what to say. I'm going to talk about the Lions, and
Woof.
it's yeah, it's so much good mixed in with heartbreaking. With Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, the heart of a lion without a doubt. So
Yeah.
defensively, it's going to be a different
Oh, yeah.
situation.
Big time. Hmm.
And I think I don't know. I feel like that team is like a very much a next man up kind of like I don't know. They seem to have a great support system for their young players, so I'm sure they can figure something out to recuperate and get by for a little while. But offensively, baby, this team is lights out. They're completely nuts. I tried to pull some information together, just kind of curiosity, and see how many players we have in the fantasy world that are averaging over 17 points per game.
Hmm.
And looking at that, just looking at, very aggressive offenses, really. We ended up with three teams that have four players that have over 15
Wow.
points per game. And it's Detroit,
Hmm.
Philadelphia,
Hmm.
and Houston. So
Wow.
um, shouldn't be too surprised. AJ Brown kind of throws that Philadelphia one in there because he's
Gotcha.
having two really good games. But you gotta love what you're seeing out of Detroit from a fantasy perspective.
Hmm.
Obviously, they're 4-1, battling in a pretty tough division with one of the two undefeated teams. So it's gonna be throwing blows. They face off this week, so we'll find out a little bit about how this the NFC North is gonna pan out. But
Hmm.
this is another team that's playing the AFC South. So after that Vikings game, they got the Titans right away, and then they roll through. Still got the Jags and the Colts left on their schedule. So there's a few little games in there that could be easy, but for the most part, it's kind of tough playing out this division. And then they've got opponents such as the Niners, Bills, and Texans. So. Eh, I
Yeah.
hope for the best. I've got high hopes for this squad. But they're insane. I couldn't not talk about a team that's doing what they're doing right now on the ground. They're just lighting it up completely. They've got two running backs in the top 10 on points per
Mhm.
game with David Montgomery at 7. We all saw what he did over the
Yeah.
weekend, mid-season contract extension. Like, yeah, that shit doesn't happen every day for running backs. It's
Hmm.
pretty amazing. You got Gibbs right at 10. Of course, we're all a little disappointed. I don't know. Sam Laporta, tight end 15. It's a
Yeah.
little underwhelming, but like I said, like when you're firing on all cylinders, you don't have to lean on that leg of the chair. Things are going good. But for the wide receiver room, happy to see, Amon Ra. Love the player. He's at 12 right now. But Jamison Williams, man, are we kidding? He's at the 20th spot in the wide receiver
Wow.
rankings per game. And he's doing it with big time touchdowns, like helping this game out in a big way. And I'm pretty happy to see him scoring like that and just having those big plays. And you can't do all that without Goff being top 10. He's right at 10 in the
Hmm.
quarterback room. So it's kind of just impressive to me the juggernaut that this team is right now. So I think even though they have tough schedules, there's not really a team that I would take over them. They're just kind of a tough team that knows how to put it all on the line. They're
Hmm.
leading the league in points for per game, and
Hmm.
I mean that's a good way to keep on winning. So I don't know. I like the Lions. I don't have anything crazy to say. There's no
Yeah.
ritual being unveiled here, but they're doing it. So got to give it to them.
Yeah, no, they are an incredible offense, and the defense was firing fairly well. I do think Aiden Hutchinson getting hurt, that's like a TJ Watt level loss. Like
Yeah,
he really made that defense click. And if they can't manage to get a pass rush, this secondary I think can be a little exposed. Obviously, Brian Branch is
Brian
playing
Branch,
out of
dude.
his mind though.
Seriously,
He's been awesome and very happy that I have him on our IDP league.
right,
But
Butch? Come on.
but it is going to be tough without Hutchinson. I could see them making a move to get a pass rusher, maybe Hassan Reddick. I don't know that they
Mm.
would make that move given everything that Reddick has done lately. But it seems like they are in line for that because they need that pass rush to keep going. But yeah, offensively, there's not many teams that are going to stop them, so they should be able to ride some stuff out, even with the defense being a little shaky. And I think they beat the Vikings this week. Um,
Ooh,
Personally, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm doubting Kevin O'Connell.
this would be a great game.
It should be a really, really fun watch. But I'm with you. I think the Lions are arguably the best team in the NFC, and you could argue that they're the best team in the NFL potentially. But it might be tough with losing Hutchinson to make that argument these days. But I mean, they're great. They're a fantastic team, and yeah, I don't count them out at anything that going forward. A team
Who else
who
is
I
great?
would not have expected to be 4-2 at this point, and even crazier, I would not have expected to be second in points for on the year. And that's the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels has been a revelation. He's the QB3 on the year, and he's doing that while being 28th in passing yards as an offense. They are fifth in rushing yards, but they're doing it kind of in a combination with Jaden Daniels and Brian Robinson Jr. We all kind of were curious how the Eckler signing would work out. Brian Robinson Jr. has 73 attempts to Austin Eckler's 28, and he has 11 targets to Austin Eckler's 16. So he's not that far behind in targets, and he's definitely taken the workload there. Um, but really, what I want to talk about is the fact that the wide receivers 2 and 3 on this team are wide receiver 80 and 99 in fantasy.
Yeah.
They just do not get the work. And Terry McLaurin has come alive, and Jaden Daniels has finally brought us the scary Terry that we all knew was there. He's the wide receiver 12 on the year. He has 43 targets, and that's 22 more than the next closest wide receiver on the team. But this is the biggest deal to me. If you look at Terry's touchdown numbers over the last few years, it was 4, 5, 5, and 4. He has 4 right now already in week 6. And it seems like every week Jaden Daniels is just dialing up a deep pass to Terry McLaurin, and it's working beautifully. Whereas the last few years, Terry was getting overthrown or just horrible passes coming his way. And so for the Commanders to do that and be that good on offense and be passable on defense, and Zach Ertz is contributing a little bit as the tight end 14 on the year. But if you take a look at their schedule, they're making the playoffs in the
Sweet.
NFC. And they may win the NFC East, to be honest. I mean, they've got the Panthers, Bears, Giants, Steelers coming up. That's a toss-up game to me. The Eagles are kind of a toss-up, but then they got the Cowboys twice, who look kind of bad right now. The Titans, the Saints, and then the Falcons. That'll be a tough game, and the Eagles. So looking at their coming up schedule, there's like 4 games that are like toss-ups or could be difficult, and 2 of those are the Eagles. So like I just really think this Commanders team is gonna heat up, and unless Jaden Daniels just all of a sudden falls apart or gets hurt, you're gonna see them in the playoffs. And we're having that kind of like RG3 2.0 type of
Boom.
year. It's pretty wild. So hopefully the injuries stay away and we just get to see the exciting part. Because man, they look like a brand new team.
Yeah, they do. Except for one guy, you know, Terry McLaurin,
Yeah.
1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards. Give the guy a quarterback and see what he can do. He can go far. It's beautiful. I should have wore the jersey. Shoot, I
You
didn't
should
know,
have.
man. I didn't know it was going to be that hot. Woo, getting steamy in here. Love to see it. Love to hear it. To trade a second and a third to get Terry back on the squad feels good right now.
Pretty good.
I know, man. I'm second and for the belt. I'm not the second best team, but hey,
That
don't look at the records, right? Man, that was fun. I had a good time with that.
was fun.
Um, well, I didn't know. I'm gonna send us off. I'm gonna send us off. I'm gonna do the thing we always do.
Always.
Always.
Let's do it.
Box score boomers. And
Okay.
this week I'm changing it up a tiny bit. I will do one player who had an amazing week. He
Hmm.
boomed the F out of the box score. And I think we already know, seeing some league chats with the name drop. Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn
Hmm.
State.
Hmm.
Incredible game, man. It was a 33-30 win at USC. And this dude, for some reason, was throwing the ball enough to end up with 17 catches,
Good Lord.
224 yards, and a lone touchdown. That's incredible, man. And I like it. I like everything about it. He's a senior. He's 6'6". He's 257, so he ain't small like all these guys always are. He's from Mechanicsville, Virginia. You gotta think that's a good thing, right? That just has to be a good thing. But the PFF board's got him as the tight end 2 on the list, coming up in the draft next year. He's got a pretty good history of kicking ass. He had week 2 with 146 yards. But there's a bunch of games where he's like 50 yards or less. So we can't, he's not like setting the world on absolute fire. Only had a 400 yard season last year, but he's definitely doing everything right. And this week was kind of the best that we could ever hope for out of a tight end. So
Hmm.
got to give him props out of Penn State. So good for him.
Absolutely.
But then I'm gonna do just kind of season long review for the running backs. I'm gonna look at the top 5 guys as far as production goes, because right now they're all draft eligible for next
Hmm.
year, so there's not a lot of youngsters stirring the pot too much. So a lot of these names are probably going to be pretty familiar, but starting at the top, the way we always do, it's Ashton Genty. out of Boise
Yeah.
State. Like,
Woof,
I
woof.
don't, dude, he had 31 carries last week. Like, what are we doing, man? You just, do they want, and he was like, I just want the Heisman, I don't want to be healthy for the rest of my NFL career. I just, just wear me completely out, 30 touches a game, no problem. So, yeah, he's got over 1,200 yards, almost 1,250 yards, and 17 touchdowns. 17 touchdowns.
It's absurd.
Yeah, he's nuts, and it's pretty impressive. I brought up his size before. He's 5'9", 215, and he is a junior, so we'll be seeing him in the draft next year. He's at the PFF big board, spot number 9 right now.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, number 2 on the year, a cool 300 yards fewer is Caleb Johnson. He's a running back out of Iowa. He's got 937 yards on the year and 12 touchdowns. So he's doing pretty well. He's on a good pace. He's just competing with a monster right now, but he is a junior. As I mentioned, he's out
Uh-huh.
of Iowa. He's 6 foot 225, so a bit of a bigger guy. But he's having a good year. He's had several games over 150 rushing yards. Yeah, 4 of them. So he's peppering pretty good with his production. Not too much in the receiving, but PFF knows about him. They've got him at 94. He's the third ranked running back, but 94 on the big board. So we'll be seeing his name come up next year.
Wow.
And then,
Nice.
yeah, I'm just gonna roll through the top 5 guys here. And yeah, Amaron Hampton out of UNC is pretty good. He's at 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. So that's pretty good so far. He is 6 foot 220, so a little bit on the larger size. But PFF's got him at 35. So he's number 2 on the big board, and that's a pretty high number. He's going over 100 yards regularly all season, and yeah, pretty excited to see some of these guys work out. Excited to watch more film on some of these guys. He put up 1,500 yards last year, so pretty big deal. But then we've got DJ Giddens, and this is the Kansas State running back. We brought him up in week 3, I believe, of the box score boomers. He's got 786 yards, only 2 touchdowns. But he's having a pretty good season, several over 180, kind of heating up right now. Getting a little bit of receiving work, but 6'1", 212, kind of a taller running back, but he's quick, and he's on the big board at 151, fourth ranked for PFF. And then our last guy is Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, and let's see, he is a junior. He's 699 yards, eighth on the year, but I want to keep his all in the juniors. So he's doing pretty good. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. He's not on the big board, so um, I think he will end up getting drafted pretty highly, though. So I'm just keeping an eye on
Nice.
Tennessee guys. We've been watching him for a couple of years. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my top 5 juniors in
Nice.
rushing yards on the year so far. Just wanted to check in and do a little bit of name dropping, guys, to keep an eye on as we get closer to draft season, now that we've written in the Super Bowl champions, and we're moving right along.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I love the running back room, so I'm excited to check all those guys out. I mean, Genti has just been unbelievable. But it'll be nice to have like a full crop of running backs after last year's
Should be a good one.
yeah, after last year's kind of a downer year in terms of the running back class. So yeah, excited to see that. Thank you for going over that. It was good to hear multiple names this week. Know who to look out for. But that is going to wrap it up for us this week. So hopefully you will join us next week. Like, share, and subscribe, all that nonsense. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.